Hello and welcome to this week's episode of I Think I'm Human Too. This is the start of what I want to be a series called Couch Convos. Kind of where I was going with Couch Convos was I want to go into people's homes. Like you guys know, if you've listened to Human Too before, I just want to tell you guys about real life human beings and what they go through. And Anissa just launched her podcast.
Woo woo.
So in general, I wanted to sit down with her. We were just talking about this, like you've changed our life, our mindset, and she's a really good friend of Raphael's and I's.
Tell me more.
Yes, I had said today's the day that I'm going to tell her all the things I would never say to her outside. Cameras on, I'm very nice. Cameras off, game over.
Literally.
So Anissa, say hello.
Hello.
She has just launched Supporting His, Fulfilling Yours, and she is under the Human Too umbrella, and we're so happy to have her. We sat for lunch or coffee. Almost a year ago, last summer.
Yeah.
I had started I think I'm Human Too, and she just kind of like reached out and was like asking for some podcast advice. And so we met for coffee, and ever since then I was like, you're stuck. That's our hug. If you were watching on camera,
She
I'm so
doesn't
sorry.
like physical touch, so we've agreed.
We've agreed.
Sometimes though, I do just bear hug her and lift her little feet off the ground.
Yeah. You guys, that's why I don't like physical touch. I like touching the ground,
It's 'cause
okay?
I have to go so extreme because you're just like.
She said, I'm just a little guy.
Anyway.
So, you guys probably have seen Anissa on my social medias a ton. That's just kind of how it goes. I feel like everyone in my life, I'm like, you're now a character. You are a character, Anissa.
Wrote you into the plot.
We do it all for the plot here. Actually, my whole life is just a scheme, just for TikTok, by the way. So Anissa and I met at a Timberwolves game last year. I want to kind of talk about that because a lot of people, it started as like, you're Raphael's sister.
I am Raphael's sister.
Sucker.
I'm not by blood, but that's like my big brother now, I feel like.
He is. He's just a baby.
But yeah, we met at a Timberwolves game. For context, I live in Minnesota for majority of my life during the season. And so naturally, Minnesota content creators come up on my TikTok. I had started following Catherine when all of your content with your dad just started to like blow up, and I just thought it was so funny, the little voice you'd make of your dad in like teeny time. I was in my like
Cute. So he was
espresso
alive
martini.
at this point.
Yeah.
I didn't know that until like a couple months ago. I
Yeah.
thought you found me after his death.
No. It was during
That's so wild.
like when it was teeny time, and it was just I was in my espresso
Did you buy the
martini
merch? No, I'm just playing.
era. No.
Rolls eyes. No.
Great.
It's fine.
But no, so I just got a kick out of your dad. I thought he was the funniest little guy. And then I was following you, and then his passing was just so sudden and shocking. And I didn't even know him, and I didn't know you. And so I'd seen you at a Wolves game before, and I'm like, oh, that's so cute. I love her. Like, and I literally joke with Lexi, like, oh my God, I love her on TikTok. I won't say anything though, but you know, whatever.
I won't say anything though.
But after your dad passed, I just felt the need to say something. And so it was like one of the last regular season games, I think, for the Wolves. And, you know, me and the girlies had been drinking. So I definitely had some
A wee little bit of
courage.
wine.
Yeah, I had a little bit of liquid courage. But I really you were like heavy on my heart. For someone I did not know, I really felt like I need to go talk to her. And, you know, we all like congregate on the court before we like walk back. And I was like, hold on, I need to go talk to someone really quick. So I like in my little heels, like ran across the court, ran to your seats. And I was like, I need to talk to you. And like, I just told you.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you even remember what I told you, but like.
Yeah. So what's funny is, okay, now knowing you now, that's so you. It's not even funny. So I'm like, I love that. And that's actually one of my things that I love about you. But back then, it was still so fresh. And we were still growing on social media in the sense of like, that was so fresh too. So getting stopped, I was like, it was like the death happened and then a rapid growth happened. And so it was like two new things. And so getting stopped and then also getting stopped in like, not just like we love you online. It's like what you're putting out. And that was more of what got me that day, is
Yeah.
because you were more like dad based, of like just everything you're sharing and all that stuff, like you're doing the right thing. And I got in the car that night because Raphael and I were going through, not Raphael and I were going through something, but I was going through something, and I'd been speaking to it a lot to Raphael of like, my heart is just heavy. Am I doing this? I just quit my job. And I'm like, do I want to be crying on the internet for the rest of my life? Like, it just felt very uneasy, and like things were just, again, still so new. So when you had said that, it wasn't just like, oh, we love following you, you guys are so funny. It was like, your vulnerability is changing lives. And
Yeah.
I literally got in that car that night and I started crying, and I was just like, I just needed to hear that, you know? And it's funny because now looking back, I was just like, I didn't even really know who you were. And you had said, yeah, my husband plays for the Wolves. And I was like, oh, which one? And you said his number, and I didn't know numbers. I was like, who?
Yeah. Cool.
So I was like, cool.
But I also was like, I'm not coming to you as like some crazy fan.
Yeah.
That's like, I love you.
Yeah.
It was more like, I feel like your heart. Like,
Yeah.
and what I told her, because we didn't get into this, and her reaction is very funny and on brand. But what I had told her was like, I admire how vulnerable she is being, and what she's doing is like creating a community for people who are mourning, and it's important, and like what you're doing matters, and you're doing the right thing. And I like was like, I loved your dad, and I didn't even know him, so like I'm praying for you guys, and I can't wait to see you grow and thrive because you're doing something great. So then
She's fine. Are you guys sick of hearing about natural cycles yet? Because if you are, I don't care. I love natural cycles with a burning passion. It is part of my morning routine. Every single morning when I wake up, I log into the Natural Cycles app, I update it, and I also do it right before I go to bed at night. So it asks me all these different questions. It is the first women's app that is FDA cleared as a non-hormonal birth control, which is absolutely phenomenal. I've shared with you guys before. We are not looking to conceive a child right now, but we are also not on a hormonal birth control. So this is the best option for me and my husband. We absolutely love it. And then when we are trying to conceive, we will also use the app. It just tells you, it tracks your body's temperature to make sure when you are or are not ovulating. And again, if you are or are not trying to get pregnant, that's either when you are going to get a big red circle or a big green circle saying use protection or you're in the clear. So I literally I cannot explain this to you guys enough, how much I love Natural Cycles, and I appreciate there being something on the market that is non-hormonal and non-invasive, but also it allows me to have control over my own body. So that is why I will share Natural Cycles till the day I die. And I'm not being dramatic there. I do have a code for you guys. They have allowed us to use a Human 2 code, so I'm very excited to share that with you. The code is Catherine, CATHERINE, at naturalcycles.com. This will get you 15% off your annual subscription, and then also a free thermometer. I also did just want to let you guys know that Natural Cycles is 18 plus, and it does not protect against STIs, and that this ad is brought to you by Natural Cycles.
So then when I'm saying this, I'm like literally just like pouring my heart out of like admiration for Catherine. And she's just staring at me like,
mind you, she's one level, like she's in the aisle before me, so she's lower. So we're face to face too, which is even more uncomfortable for me. I'm like,
yeah, you're just like, thanks. And then Raphael was more like taking it in. Like, like that means so much. You have no idea. Like that.
And I took it in. I just don't know how to say something back. So this is what I say back. You're literally the prettiest person I've ever seen. Which like I still stand by. Like I wasn't saying that out of uncomfortability. If you weren't one of the prettiest people I've ever seen, I probably been like, I love your jacket.
That's what she says as I'm
literally
speaking like words of affirmation to her. And I'm like, did you just hear anything I just said? But thank you.
If you're still a follower listening to this and you've met me in real life and you've said anything that deep to me, I really promise I'm listening and I am taking it all in. I just need to get better at my responses because it's new. I don't know. And I'm just never, I'm not good at my feelings.
No, you are very good at your feelings. I think you feel deeply.
Yeah.
And in the moments at a basketball game, in situations that aren't like appropriate to fully feel what is coming. I feel like that's your response to like, oop, we're getting too deep. Let's lighten it up a little bit.
Chill,
like,
chill.
Yeah. Chill. And you're like, thank you. Let's not talk about it anymore before I start crying.
That's
so
it. I think that's what
it's just
it's
the
crying.
situations that like you're like, okay, we're gonna go a place that
not my
I
hands
can't
getting
come back
hot.
from.
No, literally, I'm sweating.
I make you feel all the feels. But I think that's what it is, because you're very in tune with your emotions. You're an emotional person in like a beautiful way. You care. All the stories that people tell you, you like digest. But it's just when you're able to do it at home in
it's
like
different.
a comfortable space versus at the Timberwolves game when you know people are excited to see you and all these different things, you can't really process what people are saying.
I'm also not like, before my dad's death, I did not cry ever. It is so weird. My mom still to this day is like, you're a freak. Like, I could go through anything and everything and I would not cry. So she'd say if I was crying, like something was really, truly wrong. And normally the only time I would cry as a kid was like pure straight exhaustion. That was where I would just start crying. But other than that, not through pain, not through like heartache, never. And then when my dad died, it was just like, I feel everything now. And I cry for everyone. Like, part 3 of dealing with addiction is coming out next week, but it'll already be out by the time this one comes out. And in those episodes, like reading through that the emails, I just couldn't stop crying. I was just like hearing those words and the things that people were saying about themselves and about their lost loved ones or mourning people that are still alive. I was just like,
yeah.
But I wanted to touch on our friendship, one, because a lot of people wanted to know, and then two, obviously we as a couple, you've changed us too, and we've told you that. And just like the human being that you are, you do feel the feelings and you talk about the feelings, but you also can articulate in such a good way of like, it's not wrong to feel, but also, and I want to full circle this at the very end of how do you feel, but you're also very good at boundaries too. And that's something that's not in a lot of people's toolboxes, one or the other, hard. But to have both is like, we're literally constantly taking notes from Anissa of like how. And a lot of what our relationship got close by was because of just being at different stages of life and having different things and going through different motions and having family or friends that are kind of taking advantage and or like just a lot of things that we're going through now you guys have been through. So we sit down with you guys and we're like, how do we not jade ourselves and close up and block our blessings and enjoy this moment while also staying graceful and kind, but also our doors can close.
It's so easy to like, I think the easy thing is to close up in these situations, is to like put the walls up, to isolate yourself, to do all of those things. That's the easy thing to do. Like, it takes true strength to continue to be open and kind and giving and all of those things as time goes on, because there are a lot of people who do messed up stuff, unfortunately. And you have to like decide, am I going to let this one person stop me from being a blessing to all these other people? Yeah. Because there are tons of people who are just truly good people, or who you can help, or who can help you. And you never know how that blessing is going to come. And like, I never thought me coming up to you that day and just telling you like, you're doing great and your dad is proud of you, like you're doing the right thing, would turn into like the blessing it's been. Because I've always been very much like no new friends. Like, I've had a good friend group. I like make like one friend every like couple years that I like cling to, you know, like a best friend. And I feel like as you get older, you're like, okay, I got all my friends. Yeah. But like, I could not have pictured this friendship now. Yeah. And I'm so glad that I wasn't one of those people that are like, everyone's out to use me, or all of these things, and what it, you know, just,
or even having the courage to come say something to someone.
Yeah. And I'm not one of those people who feel like, well, my husband does this, so like, I'm not gonna like acknowledge people for doing good things. I don't know, because I feel like that also happens too, where some people feel like, oh no, I'm too cool to like go up to people and be like, you're so freaking cool. But that's not me at all. If you're doing something great, I'm gonna tell you. And I think just stay grounded.
Thank you.
This is our one. We have a good thing we're getting this recorded, because we're never gonna say these nice things about
I know,
each
right?
other again.
Anissa's gonna look back at these videos for the rest of her life.
Clip them.
She's gonna play these before bed every single night.
You said I inspire you guys.
No, you really do, and you know that. Shut up. Okay, so you just released Supporting His, Fulfilling Yours.
Yes.
and I'm obviously a huge fan of that because, well, when you've said you've been thinking about this for how long?
Like literally 7 years
Mm-hmm.
from when Jordan and I graduated to now. I just was like scared to put it out there because it requires you to be very vulnerable. And before we were married, like I have old like little journals on WordPress.
Okay.
And I always had like supporting is
blog.
fulfilling yours. Yeah, my
Okay.
little blog. But I never published it. So I just like consider it a journal at this point because it's like
Cute, though.
drafted, but it's never been
So
put
you were
out.
journaling during the phases of like early.
Yeah. And it was just to like, what am I learning from this right
Yeah.
now? What are we going through? What are we learning? How do I operate in this relationship? But I didn't feel comfortable putting it out because to be honest, I was like, what if we don't work out? And I'm
Yeah.
like promoting something,
I get that.
not promoting, but sharing something. We're like, girl, you're not even with that man. Like, why I'm not
Who is he?
listening to you? Yeah, like I'm not listening to you. It didn't even work out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just didn't feel confident in sharing what I was learning because I was still learning it.
Yeah.
And I'm still constantly
You guys were
learning.
young too.
Exactly. We were
'Cause
navigating
you were in college.
so much. So it was crazy.
Yeah.
But there was nothing like it for me. There's no, I mean, you know, when the guys come into the NBA, they have like meetings on like their first 2 years all the time with the NBA of like how to, you know, your money, how to navigate so many
Okay.
things. Like they have a bit of like
That's good.
training camp in terms of like, you know, and then
Yeah.
they also have a bunch of guys around them like, all right, let me put you on. What do we do?
Yeah.
But then there's also on the flip side, when you're the partner of one of the guys and you come into this, everyone is telling you like, don't talk to other girls, don't trust other people, like, you know, basically like isolate yourself, be careful, people are out to get, you know.
Yeah.
So then you're like looking
Because
over
a lot of
your
them do
shoulder.
get used to.
Exactly. And like not
All they're in it
and-
is for a check.
and some of the girls, you know, some people are there for different reasons. And like, you know, you don't want to get caught up in the wrong stuff.
Yeah.
So the advice very much so to me was like, keep your head low. Don't
Yeah.
talk to people.
And not a lot of those people, like a lot of those guys come from money. Like they're just now handed $1 million and they're like, good luck.
Yeah. Right.
Have fun.
Right. So there's so many layers to it, but like we had like a pure relationship and that's also rare too.
Yeah.
And so I just didn't feel like I had anyone to look to for advice really. And thankfully like there were two people that really like took me under their wing of this stuff and was just like, you know, helping me through of like digesting what was happening because Jordan's career was not like you got drafted and then he was, you know, it's been like
He climbed his way in.
trekking. Yeah. And so it's like when you're not, you know, Steph or LeBron, like you don't know for sure what's going on in terms of how long or where or
Yeah, you don't have the security.
no security.
And then you have a spouse at home like, where's my security?
Right.
Yeah.
You have to be comfortable with
And
no
you
stability.
you would change. So I'm excited for your whole podcast in general. Like your mindset is because you live it, and so many people on an outsider, myself and Raphael included, like I can throw us under the bus of like you don't know, right? And so before we knew you guys, you hear the stereotypes, you hear the stigmas of like, why do these women not work, right? You guys got all this money. Oh, that's why. Okay. But you're like, well, one, no, that's not the case.
No.
What job wants to hire me knowing that I could be gone tomorrow?
Yeah.
That mind blew me. Mind blew me.
Yeah.
And I was like, you are so right. One, I'm like, well, why would you work? I'm like,
Yeah.
and
Like,
then
this
also
is-
you look at like taxes and it's like exactly
Hits
like what
you
you said.
harder.
Your job is like affecting taxes more. And
Yeah.
it's like, so you're literally paying you're working
To
for
pay more.
funsies
Yeah.
to pay more to the government and you don't even see
Yeah.
your own check. And you're just like,
Right.
what's the point in this?
Yeah.
But that right there is something that a lot of people don't know. And just stereotypically you grow up thinking all these athletes are just making all this money and like they've got side chicks and they've got this. And even that, like that TikTok video you had seen last night, like podcasters had put out, and we'll stitch the clip. But they put out a video saying like all pro athletes cheat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that? Yes or no? And the other girl was like 110%.
Yeah.
That is crazy to me.
Yeah.
And so this morning when I was like looking at that, I was so angry because I was like, well, when you say 100%, well, what is 100% of pro athletes in the leagues that you're speaking on? They're 100% men, right? So then you're telling me, if you're taking that ratio, well, then you're telling me 100% of men cheat.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, if we want to get deep here, and then you had also brought up the point of like how many women are at home now sitting here, like the mindset and the empowerment that you're changing in the mindset of women is just crazy to me. And knowing Jordan, I'm like, that would never.
Yeah. And like, I'm not the type of person, like when I made that TikTok, I'm not saying like my man would never cheat. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of those people that I'd like never say never. Because I feel like people are capable of so many things. And when you get in that like mindset of like, oh, that could never be me. That is never this.
You turn a blind eye.
And it's also like, I've seen it happen many times to people who do that. And then it happens. And it's like, now what? And that's a lesson. And like, so I never put that pressure on myself nor my husband of like, you would never do this. I would never do that. And I, God willing, like I pray we are never in a situation like that, because that is so hard to see women go through. And I can't imagine going through it myself, but I know I married a good man. Yeah. And I know what we have, and I know our communication and all of these things, to where like, I pray that we wouldn't be in that situation. But like it's hard to say, like just seeing someone say they all cheat. I'm like, that's not true, because there are so many good men within this league and that we know personally. I mean, we've surrounded ourselves with so many incredible couples that we learn from, that it's like they're truly family men. And there are some that do cheat, and there's some that give a bad rep and they do messy stuff and all of these things. But that's with everything. That's not just pro athletes. That's all Joe Schmo down the street who has no money. Yeah. Even the
no fame.
Yeah, even nobody, no fame, they still cheat. So it's like
no shots.
It's literally like, it doesn't matter, but to put that on as like all pro athlete cheat. And it's like, I just felt that clip was just very irresponsible, because it just feeds into a lie. That's, you know, there's so many stereotypes that we're trying to break in this world of women who we're all gold diggers. We just are here for a good time. And I'm like, I've been with my husband since I was 19. We've literally built our lives together. We used to split the rent. My mom used to pay our bill. Like, you know, like when we were in college, like there's just so much to it.
You didn't cling to him because of the money.
And like, so that's something. And then, you know,
nor was he like exactly like you said, he wasn't the next LeBron. So like in college, you weren't like at 19, like I know he's getting drafted. No, like he's going far.
Yeah, like he didn't get drafted. He had to like go through the G League and build his way up. So like, there's just so many wrong stereotypes, but that one kills me.
I kind of want to talk to you about that, because like me as your friend, I probably know the answer to this, but I do see how mentally this affects you. Yeah. Of like this world. And again, just like what you said, there's so many stereotypes that goes with it. And sitting here literally on this couch having conversations on game night when he's out and just seeing stuff that goes on.
You see my best and worst.
Yeah. Well, like, but again, if I were not have ever sat in this seat 5 years ago, I'm like, you guys have the life. Like, what a great life, you know? But watching the firsthand mental strain, it's changed me. So it's like, speak a little bit on that of like, what does it look like to be the wife to somebody, again, without the security? Yeah. You guys have a security in your marriage, but past that, your home isn't secure. Right. His job isn't secure.
Right. And honestly, I don't think that I could get through this without faith. Like, I feel the most grounded. Like, I just have to like pray, because as much as people think like I literally saw a tweet yesterday, and it was like, Damian Lillard talking about his change to Milwaukee. Okay. And he was saying like, you know, it's lonely. I left all of my family in Portland, all of these things. And one of the guys, some reporter was like, oh, poor guy has to make $500,000 a game and drives this car and goes home to his mansion. And he's like, poor boohoo. I'm sure I could, like, you know, why are you crying? And I'm like, you have no idea how isolating it can feel, because in a position like that, you know, there's so many people who want things from you. There are so many people just like talking about you online constantly, whether you look at it or not. Like, you know, things are happening around you. You're trying to figure out your place in so many things, and like, people don't realize how much you give up. So as a partner, I go sometimes 2 weeks without seeing my husband if the road trip is long, or I am just all over. Like, you know, it's not knowing. I mean, before the deadline, you were having as much anxiety as I was, because we're like,
don't take my friends.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, guys, just a heads up. And I'm telling my boss, like, just a heads up, trade deadline's coming up. We haven't really heard anything, but we could be traded. And then I'll probably have to put my 2 weeks in, and then I'm out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a lot. And I've had to like get really comfortable with not knowing what my life looks like too far ahead. It's stressful. And we're very grateful to be a part of an organization. We've been with the Wolves for 5 years that like value family in a sense of like making sure we're comfortable. I mean, you come to the games with us, they feed us, whatever we need, they're like, we got you. So that's great. But it's like not every team is like that. I've heard all types of stories. You can go down the street and it's like, they're like,
you have to buy your own seats.
Yeah, they're like, we don't have a family room.
You're actually in the nosebleeds tonight.
Care. Yeah, there's no welcome of like, who are you? Like, yeah, get in line.
Yeah.
So it's just mentally exhausting, and you're navigating a lot of people, and you know, it's not a place where you can say much publicly of like, or even in, you know, if anything happens, it's like its own world.
Yeah.
And you can't go online and be like, you know, say this. It's like you have to deal with your stuff in-house. There's constantly people watching you, judging my husband, saying things about my husband. I feel like that's the hardest part too, is like he's so chill and has been doing this for a long time, and he knows how to navigate it, and he doesn't pay attention to it. But if I do see things, I'm very protective of him, because he's 100%.
Even we are. We're
like who?
Shut up.
Yeah. So like,
we were at a Brooklyn Nets game. I have to tell this story. We were at the Nets game in Brooklyn, right? And my brother and I went with Anissa. And there was these guys sitting behind us, which, okay, when they sat down, they were like, this is the closest we've ever been. And Anissa and I are like, wow, we're so desensitized to like being blessed and sitting in these seats every single game. But like, some people are spending a ton of money to be there. And we were like, wow, that's so cute. Then they started talking shit.
Yeah.
About Jordan.
Well,
and Anissa was like, about what he looked like, right?
Yeah, he was like, hey, you look like number 6. And I look back, I'm like, he does not look like that.
But it was so funny because she immediately turns around. She's like, just so you know, he's my husband. So watch what you say this game. Because that is truly one of the hardest parts respectfully. It is truly one of the hardest parts about being online and in the spotlight. Like, you guys are in a different spotlight, but it's in a spotlight. And like, just having to watch and hear your own character and or your loved one's characters get diminished. Yeah. And you can't say anything. You just have to say, just so you know, I'm his wife. Please be respectful.
Yeah, and that's really all that was, because you were like,
right, and that
threatening the crew.
Yeah,
I'm like low key, but no.
That moment wasn't bad, but like, even like when we went to a Vikings game, the 4 of us, we went on a double date. And the guy in front of us, like, the Vikings weren't playing well, and the guy in front of us had a whole group chat going with his besties. Yeah. And he was like, the bald guy fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, but he's still a man. He had a bad day at work. Timmy, I'm sure you've had horrible days at work.
Imagine if we all came to your job and watched you do whatever it is you do, and we yelled at you while you did stuff.
Like, and we texted in group chats, your fucking bald ass sucks. Like, this man has a little limp in his walk. Like, how does he even have a what? Like, the stuff that people say about people in public figures, just because, and I hate this. I hate the saying, it comes with the territory. It literally makes me cringe when people say that.
You don't know you don't know the amount of sacrifice you make to get in certain positions until you're in it.
What NBA player is going into a elementary school gym and saying, don't chase your dreams, because it comes with a lot of mental strength. Yeah. They say go after because they still wholeheartedly believe that, but it's like, they're not going to sit down and be real with an 8-year-old and be like, just so you know, like,
you're gonna be fucking tough. By the internet.
Yeah, you're mentally abused by the internet. Sometimes the coaches tell you suck. Sometimes they say they love you. You just never know. Right. Sometimes your wife is cheating on you. Sometimes you cheat on your, like, you know what I mean? Like, nobody sits down and talks about, like,
hit hard.
Yeah, like, things are gonna hit hard. Some days, like, it's gonna be a Tuesday afternoon and you're actually on a flight out and you're texting your wife and kids, you guys got to move across the country by yourself or stay home. I'll buy a second. Like, you decide. Right. You're not gonna tell an 8-year-old that. No. You're like, go chase your dreams, and if you're great at it, continue it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people who make it and they can't handle
And they back out, right?
Yeah,
like, what's the
there's
statistics
been
of
guys-
leaving in the first year?
I'm not sure, but there's been guys who retired within 1 to 2 years, like, and they got drafted, and they're like, my mental health, like, couldn't survive that. And like, people are like, oh, who's complaining about making that much money? Like, what, you know? But the people don't understand the strength it takes to do that, just mentally. Physically, that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But then just the mental game that you're constantly playing to keep yourself motivated, especially if you're like, you know, working hard for just a spot in the rotation. Like, like Jordan's strength, mental strength is incredible. I've learned so much from him because nothing he's gotten has been given to him. He has had to work twice as hard, 10 times as hard, have had to been like 10 times as dedicated.
Yeah.
Because not only is he like undersized for the NBA, but it's like they're not looking to him as a vital piece. So he's constantly having to show like,
prove
here's
himself.
why I need to be here, you know? And just that alone, just thinking of like, gosh, having to stay that motivated all the time.
And he's been in a long time.
You have to love what you're doing, because sometimes like I would be like, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
What I'm going through is just not worth it. But he lives and breathes basketball. Like, that is his first love. I'm like, basketball, then everything else.
Yeah.
But like, it's incredible. And then I have to be, I'm like, all right, let's do this again.
Yeah.
Woo!
Here we go.
Put my seatbelt on. Let's.
I love this.
And then I like dump all my stress on you.
I love it. And then I'm in the stands like, these motherfuckers.
Yeah, you know, you're like,
she's like, shut up.
yeah.
Shut up.
So it's like, but it's, you know, it's a part of the game, and we're grateful, and he's killing it, and you know, we can control, but truly, like, I pray all day.
Yeah, you guys both
all
do.
the time. Yeah, we are like and I think our faith has grown tremendously in the last 2 years, because it's just so much.
Yeah.
And like, it's like, I can't even carry this, so I need to give it to God.
Give it to God, yeah.
And just find peace in that. And like, I always appreciate when people are like, oh, you're on our mind, so we said a prayer for you. I'm like, thank you. Because it's tough.
That's honestly one of the biggest reasons. And when you started supporting his, Fulfilling Yours, it's not even just NBA based, it's female based in general. And when you were kind of sharing the gist of it with me, I was like, how many moms give up their life for their children? How many siblings, you know, like, there's a lot of people that go through a lot of different things, and they have to give up their own to push others. And so I'm very excited to see how that goes. And obviously the more that you share on there, but yeah, I'm just excited for it.
I'm excited.
I love it.
I'm very
I haven't given up anything for Rafi, so I'm not a guest, but maybe one day.
Maybe Rafi can be on supporting.
Right.
He can make supporting hers fulfilling
Right.
one. And we'll talk about how he became in his influencer era.
Literally. I want to talk to you about, okay, so obviously I know the storyline, but you come from a pro athlete too.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know that. I never knew that.
No. And that's also why I think I have such a tie to Minnesota. Like, even before we came here, I always wanted to visit Minnesota because my dad played for the Vikings. And like, when he played here, I didn't get to like come here and visit, but like, the Vikings were my dad's second team, and then the Timberwolves were my husband's second team.
But you've always said
I never wanted to marry a pro athlete.
Explain that.
But I feel like Jordan is in his own category to this day.
Jordan's just
like,
Jordan.
it doesn't count.
But explain the mindset before Jordan, before even meeting Jordan, when you said that. What was that mindset and why? Because I feel like he is polar opposite of what happened.
Yeah. So like, as a kid, my parents had me really young, for one. And so like, all of my like pre-teen years, my dad was playing. I think he played for like 8 or 9 seasons, which is a really long time in football years, as a linebacker. And as a child, like, seasons are long. I lived in California. My dad was in Detroit, Minnesota, you know, everywhere else. So I didn't see him often. And then I also had siblings. My dad had children, and they were in different places. So I didn't grow up with them.
Because your parents weren't together.
My parents weren't together,
Okay.
no. And so I was very much like the woman on the podcast of, like all men have cheat, all men have kids,
Yeah.
because not to say like my dad was out
It's
there
all you
just
knew.
cheating, but like it was like he had other children and I didn't get to see him all the time. So I was like, oof, I wouldn't want my kid to go through this because it's hard. That's
Yeah.
hard as a kid.
Yeah.
So I was very much like, I will never get with a pro athlete because that sucks. And
Yeah.
like, I'm going to get cheated on.
He's gonna have babies elsewhere.
And my
yeah.
kids are going to see their dad half the
Yeah.
year. Like, and that's tough. So yeah, I was totally against it. And then even when Jordan like and I first met and we like, I was like, yeah, you're cool. Like, but you know.
Was Jordan pretty big in college ball? Like, was he
Yes.
like the star of the show at USC?
Yeah.
Okay.
He like did so much for USC before Jordan got there. Like the basketball program had gone like really bad, and like no one wanted to go there.
Okay.
And then Andy Enfield and Tony Blandis as a coach, they like basically came to Jordan like, you'll be the start of like a big change, because Jordan was like wanted by every school. He could have gone anywhere he wanted to go. UCLA, Stanford, everywhere.
Not being in the same room with
Literally,
Glocky.
yeah, he
Honored.
He could have gone anywhere, but they were like, we want to build something
Big.
that's going to last, and
Okay.
we need you to like be a part of that starting group. So Jordan really bought into that idea, because he's not the type to like join a team that's already great. He wants to like build something that is like memorable, and that's with everything he does. Like he's not chasing a big name of a brand to like partner with. Like he's like, well, what's up and coming? Like what can we really do?
He likes being part of the foundation.
For sure. That
Not
speaks,
the billboards.
That speaks a lot about his character, because that's just how he is with everything. But yeah, so they built something amazing.
Okay, I wanted to tie, because again, that's, and in knowing your storyline, again, I've told you this, like it's changed us, and I think that's why it's powerful, and it's probably uncomfortable to share. But your storyline of your dad's relationship with your siblings and how that all came about.
That was crazy, because I think there's like 8 of us. I think I might be forgetting somebody, but there's a lot of us. But we didn't grow up together. We have like a few of us have like different moms. So it was crazy because we didn't grow up together. We didn't know each other. But as we got older, I like brought everyone together, and it was like such a healing experience.
I think that's the powerful storyline to me as your friend, knowing it's like the anger and the judgments that were in your head, again, like I'll never marry a pro athlete. But then you came to something in your own head of like, he's just a man.
Yeah. Well,
he's just a human being.
Yeah. And before I brought all my siblings together, my grandma, my dad's mom, she knew about all my siblings, but she didn't get to meet everybody.
Okay.
And like I had promised her, like, Grandma, I'm going to get everyone
Cute.
together. I promised you this is what we're going to do. And so I kept that promise. And while I was like, you know, getting to really know my siblings, I sat down with my dad, and we had hours, like probably 3 hours in this cafe just talking, like, and we just started from the beginning to the end, because I really just wanted to understand, like, I knew that I was being held back in a way by having resentment and like hurt for things from my childhood that I just needed to understand. And also like hearing my siblings' stories and, you know, all these things. And it's just like, walk me through this, make this make sense to me. And we talked and talked and talked. And like, that made me see him in a completely different light. And it helped our relationship tremendously. I mean, like, do I agree with everything my parents do or have done? No. But knowing why they did what they did and the situations they were in outside that didn't have to do with me, that affected their decisions, you know, and they were young.
Yeah.
I'm like, what can you expect from a 22-year-old to make decisions for a 4 or 5-year-old? You know, like all these circumstances that I have not had to go through. And it really helped me to like give my dad a lot of grace and just like look forward, because that's all we have. We cannot change what has happened, but if you're willing to work on what's ahead, then like, who am I to stop you? And I'm not God. I cannot judge you. I don't have the last say, and I don't have to carry what you've been through. And I think that's a big thing of like, a lot of people, we carry the things that were done to us, And that's not our job. That's not like our place. That the people who have done those things, they already have to carry that. And I told my dad, like, I can't imagine like the heavy heart you must feel sometimes, because you have to carry things of, you know, maybe you regret the way you've handled things, or maybe, you know, all of these different situations, or you wish you could have been more like there for us more because you were playing football. There were so many things that stopped you from doing the things maybe you wanted to do. And instead of holding that hurt and anger towards him, I'm like, that's not for me to carry. I've lived a good life. I'm happy with who I am, and you can carry that. I forgive you whether I get an apology or not, but I'm not going to carry that anymore because it affects me more than it affected our relationship. I was more like angry and hurt and all these things, but I'm like, you know what, let it go. And I'm not going to live in that mentality of like what's been done to me. It's just how we get forward. And I needed to set that example for my siblings.
And you guys were able to all be in the same room, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Since then, our family dynamic has changed in the most beautiful way. And nothing's perfect. No family is perfect. You know, there's still like a lot of healing and growing going on. And my siblings are all younger than me. But like for my wedding, that was like one of the first times that we had everyone together. All of my siblings, like,
I just think that's so
it
cool.
was the most unreal. And like, I was so emotional leading up to the wedding, and people thought like, I was just like, I was so excited.
It's the marriage.
Yeah. Like they're like, are you okay? Like, are you crying because you're scared? Or
right.
But it was so much. Yeah. I was getting married.
Yeah.
That's
it's like
huge
20
already.
years
But
of
also,
built up.
Yeah. And
for everyone involved.
Right. And also like my nerves were high. I'm like, everyone getting along. Everyone good. Like
yeah.
all these things.
What an uncomfortable room to have brand new people meeting and brand new people who have hostility.
Yeah. And like having like my parents, that was like the first time I had like both sets of my parents.
We were just with a friend the other day, and he actually came to visit us a couple of months ago, and he works out. He does all this stuff in the body health world, and he was explaining that he was really low on electrolytes, and the conversation came up, and we were talking about our favorite packets, and we use Element, so LMNT, pronounced Element. I gave him a couple to try out a couple months ago, and then we just were with him a couple days ago, and he was like, I love that stuff. I love that stuff. You have now got me hooked. That is why I am such a huge advocate for trying out the sample pack, making sure that you can figure out what kinds, what flavors you like, and then really getting to experience the hydration for yourself. I don't know if you've heard of other hydration packs out there, but a lot of them can have a lot of sugars. They're high in sugars, but the electrolyte really comes from the salt. And I know it's a very salty taste, but it does so much for your body. And not only that, but if you're going to be drinking something that's benefiting you, you want to make sure that it's actually benefiting you, not that it just tastes phenomenal. So Element has given listeners a link to try out. If you want to try their sample pack, it will come with one flavor each pack. So you get to try out all their flavors, their basic flavors. And I literally love them. We carry them all the time in my purse. And I'm always recommending to them for friends. We have them so much. We have so many of them stocked up in our house. And anytime someone's over, I'm always like, try these out. You'll fall in love. I'm excited that they give you guys a link to try them out as well. I will get the link for you. The link is DrinkLMNT, so drinkelement.com/human2. The Element sample pack includes 1 pack of every flavor. This is the perfect offer for anyone who is interested in trying all the flavor, or if you want to introduce your friends to Element, just like we did.
In one space since I was 16. And then before that, it was like years before that. So like we were, and everyone now, like they were, you know, and my parents are talking, everyone's cool. Like it was just such a turning point. And I literally was like, I would have never guessed we could have gotten here. Like, and all it took was healing. And all it took was like having honest conversations. When you can be honest with what you've done, like have accountability and just say like, you know, I'm sorry I did this. And that was like my dad and I, like, he's very honest. And he was like, you know, like, this is what happened. And we were young and this is what I was going through. And this is how I handled it. And like, I'm sorry that it had affected you in this way, but I want you to know, like, I love you and I did the best I could. And I'm like, you know what? I appreciate that. And you have to choose to forgive. Like,
Yeah.
you can't, even when the person gives an apology, if you want that relationship, because I could have been like, thanks for the apology, and I don't want anything to do with you. But I love my dad. I adore him. Like, he gave me a beautiful life. Even though he couldn't always be there physically, he provided for me financially. And, like, I wanted for nothing as a child. Like, I had a beautiful childhood, but of course, like, my dad, I wish my dad would have always been there, but he had work to do and someone had to, you know, do that. My mom was working as well and building her life, but, like, there was just so many things that they were trying to figure out themselves. And my dad was mourning the loss of a parent. And, like, I can't imagine trying to do mourn the loss of a parent while always also learning how to be a parent, like, at 24, 25, like, as a kid.
And in a random industry that not a lot of people go through.
Yeah, and as a pro athlete, like, and now that we're in this world, it has brought me even closer to my dad. More so, like, where my mom is like, my mom used to be my go-to for, like, advice for everything, and now my mom is like, call your dad.
Yeah.
Because I can't offer you any. Yeah, like, he knows. And so, like, I'm constantly calling and texting my dad, what should we do about this?
Yeah.
Or, like, this happened, and, like, he has so much wisdom. So maybe, like, he wasn't my source of reason when I was a child, but as an adult, he is my go-to because he knows what it's like, and he can just tell us what we need to hear and help in whatever way he can, and all of that. And I would have missed out on that had I held that grudge of the past. But, like, because we were both able to say, you know, and I wasn't perfect, like, my anger towards my dad, like, I would say mean things.
Yeah.
And I lashed out and all of this stuff. So there was a lot going on. But the best thing that I could have done for myself was to have an honest conversation and, like, choose love and choose family. Because at the end of the day, like, that's what it is, and everything happens for a reason. And it made me a better person for it. And I think also it helped me navigate this better and give more grace in a lot of situations, because I've been on the other side of it, for one, and I know what it can look like. And I feel like that's also cool for us, because we're like a second chance for my dad, because he had everything and he lost everything. And now we're here, you know, he's like, don't make the same mistakes I did, and be careful of this, and set these boundaries. And he helps, like, me learning, like, he helps me to learn when it's time to set a boundary, and when it's time to not respond, and when it's time to respond, and how to support Jordan better, because I don't always know what to do and what to say. But, like, I'm like, Dad, this is going, like, what should I do, or how do we go about doing this? And he's like, listen, like, this is what he needs. And, you know, all of that. And that helps me a ton with my marriage.
Yeah.
So
I definitely think you and Jordan should have a sit down on your episode and an episode in this together of, like, because I think that is a powerful thing. And I told you this when you originally told me this story. I was just like, I truly believe, because she's the oldest and he says the oldest sibling.
Yeah.
And also, again, like, the power that takes within you, there's a reason you're the oldest, and there's a reason you were able to sit with your dad and you were able to give all those other kids that relationship, or even just that conversation, whether they chose to have a relationship today or whatever the case may be, giving them that, because you are such a safe space for so many people. And I love that, because we can come to you with a great day, we can come to you with a bad day, and you're always going to be just that safe space. So I'm sure that your siblings needed that too, of, like, well, if Anissa can handle this and Anissa's going to be in the same room with us, we can do this.
Yeah.
And I really believe that you were set here to give not only yourself that, but your siblings and your father that conversation.
I agree. And I always tell my siblings too, like, it's like I said earlier, it's harder to forgive and move on. That's the hard thing to do. It's easier to, like, sit in that anger and hurt and all of those things. But I'm like, in many ways, when you let go and you stop holding on to the things that people have done to you, you free yourself in such a beautiful way. And you don't let the hardness, like, you don't let it harden your heart. And over time, things get easier. And, like, you might not see any way of you can have, like, you can be in the same room with certain people and all these things now. But when you stop carrying that, you're able to take in moments without feeling ill will and all of that. And ultimately, that's just what I want for my siblings. But I'm like, hey, I'm on your team. Like, we're adults. My dad, me, we're the adults here. You guys are the kids. And
because you have a lot that are still underage, right?
Only
A
3
few,
now.
right?
But yeah, but back then there were more. They were all kiddos.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were all underage. But now everyone's like, except 3, 18 and over. So it's like they're becoming adults too. And I'm like, okay, now you have to take on this role. I can't be the only one forever being, you know,
holding everyone's hand.
Yeah. So it's like now you have to make that transition yourself, and we got to grow.
Yeah.
We got to keep moving, and we're family, and, you know.
So exactly like this conversation I was telling you right before. And let me just, Raphael's gone through a lot that you've changed his mindset and a lot of things, but I don't think he'll ever have the sit down conversations that you did. And just so even speaking for my own self, obviously I was going through a lot of family drama right at our meeting. And the more that we kind of divulged into stuff, you just sharing your story without even me having to share mine, you changed my mindset. And I've told you a lot, like in our personal life, of like things that were said and done to me before my dad's death that I still was holding on to, and the anger that I was holding on to. And ever since having that conversation with you, I feel like my heart has been a little bit lighter. And I don't think when people think forgiveness, like say Anissa's done something to me and I feel like I have to go sit down and be like, Anissa, I forgive you. I don't necessarily believe in forgiveness as always having to sit down with that person. Sometimes it's exactly like what you said. It's like that heaviness is no longer for me, whether I'm telling that person that or not and saying I forgive or not. I can sit here on this couch and be like, you know what? I forgive a lot of people and a lot of adults that were in my life that did things to children because they just didn't know.
Yeah.
And they were doing the best that they had. And whether or not I sit down with these people and I say, here's why I was hurt and here's why I'm now choosing to forgive, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people out there need to hear that because they think that that conversation has to happen or the forgiveness won't.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't.
And sometimes you don't get the sorry.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like, I did what I did and it is what it is.
Yeah.
And that might like infuriate people even more. So it's like you have to forgive on the term of like, I don't want to carry this anymore. That's what I think is forgiveness.
It's the same way of giving though. Like I don't give a gift. Like I don't ever show up at a Christmas expecting to get it back, you know? And I think a lot of people have to have that mindset. Like no matter what room you're going into, all we can do is control ourselves. And that's even like what my therapist has said and stuff along those lines of like, we have to go in the room of just saying, I stand firm in who I am. I stand firm in forgiving you. So I hope you forgive me. And I don't need that sorry or whatever the case may be. And exactly like I said, you might not get the answer or the response that you want, but it doesn't matter because it's about you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, too, you can forgive someone and not have to keep a relationship with them. Like, to me, I wanted to keep a relationship because everyone wanted to keep a relationship. Like, it was like, you know what? We're going to do better. Let's change the trajectory here, and we are going to fix this. If that were not the case, I could forgive and just move forward of, like, I've had situations where I'm like, I forgive people, and I'm going to love you from a distance. Because the behavior is not changing. So I forgive you. I'm not going to carry it, but I'm not going to entertain it. I'm not going to be a part of this anymore, and I'm not going to do that. So forgiveness is not always, okay, I forgive you, and I'm going to continue to be around you and allow you to do these things, and I'll continue to forgive you. No, that's not what I'm saying. It's changed behavior if you want us to keep that relationship. But if it's not going to change, I wish you well. I have no ill will for you. I wish you all the best. I hope to see you thrive. I just don't feel like I can be in this car with you anymore because it's just not healthy for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just choosing your own peace. So thankfully, like us growing as a family and stuff, it has led to a lot of peace for me, not chaos. And that's ultimately like what's important.
When you speak on that, because you and me are so different in that sense of like, and you've had to walk me through this and I'll walk other people listening through this. Choosing your own peace looks selfish.
Yeah.
And you've had to speak to me about that of like, because that's where I get hung up is like where I'm like, when I see someone going through something and I'm like, but being in your car is like me enabling it. And so I'm going to step out. And a lot of people are like, well, how dare you let me go through this on my own? Yeah. So what's advice when you have that of like choosing your own peace, but also pushing people past that selfish mindset?
I think it looks different for every situation because it's here. In some situations, I want to help you. I want to help you through this, but you have to help yourself. I can't fight your battle for you, especially if you're not going to listen. I'm happy to get on the front line for you. Let's say a situation, you're going through something with Rafael. Let's say Rafael's just
put
a
Rafi in
nightmare. Sorry, Rafi, for this little moment. Rafael is wonderful. But if he was horrible and I'm in the passenger seat with you of this situation, and it's like, I'm like, okay, Catherine, here's what we're going to do. You're going to get out of this situation. I'm going to help you. We're going to, I'm going to you're going to live here. F that. We're getting out of this situation. And you're like, okay, it's just so horrible. And then you just
I'm on your side in the car.
Yeah.
And then you get out of the car and I'm like, it's not that bad.
Right. Yeah. And then you're like, okay. And you just stay. I'm going to be like, but what are we doing here?
Why'd I raise my blood pressure for this?
Yeah, because now I just cussed your husband out. And now I packed all your stuff. And then you're telling me to bring your stuff back in.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And now your husband doesn't like me because of that. You know what I mean? And like that constant cycle is like, you know what? I can't fight this for you. So I love you. I want the best for you. And I hope it works out and all these things. But like it hurts me so much to see you in that position. So I have to take myself out of it. And what you choose to do, like, is you have to stand on your own 2 feet. And I think that's also sometimes people have to learn to stand on their own 2 feet. Because when you constantly are there to catch them, they don't learn to fly. Like they're you're like the safety net of like, well, I hate my marriage, but I always have this. I hate this friendship, but I always have this. I hate my parents, but I always have you. You know, and that's not fair to you.
Yeah.
Or to me, like that wouldn't be, because you get the worst parts, I feel like, in those situations, you know? When people feel the safest with you, I think we tend to like abuse the people that we know 100%. That won't leave. So like, if it hurts you to see people like that, I don't think it's a selfish thing to step out of the way. I'm like, I'm doing this because I want you to see this for yourself, and you have to learn to do this. And I honestly think everyone should go through some things alone. Not everything needs to take a whole village, you know?
I agree.
So, yeah.
I agree.
It's tough.
It's tough when you're also that giver, and then people say you remove yourself from that car, and then they're like, you left me. Yeah. And it's like, but you wouldn't have made the decision if I was still here holding your hand. Right. So,
and also it's like, and we talk about this is like seeing things from other point of view. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if I'm going through something, you're like, okay, well, hold on, let's see. Like, do you think that maybe they, and I think that's a good like characteristic we both have of like, let's try to see it always, even if we don't agree with it. We're standing firm of like, I'm right, they're wrong. That is
one thing about you and I that I've not had in a lot of friends. My girlfriend Haley's kind of the same way, where we sit back and we're like, okay, let's see all sides.
Devil's advocate. Yes. And even Rafael would be like, hold on, ladies, before we're like ready to rally up the troops.
We got our finger guns up.
Yeah, he's like, hold on, let's see it from all points of view. And then once we start to like, okay, I could see why they did that. I could see why they felt that way. So I think if you feel like anyone who feels like someone who's been there or whatever has like backed out of a situation or like just taken a step back, I would put yourself in their shoes of like, I could see why that's been hard for them to see me go through this, or I can see this and that. And it's not to say that they don't want to be there for you. Yeah. It's just sometimes it's hard to see. I mean, you guys have been talking about addiction and stuff. You had to step back. Yeah. Because it's hard to see a loved one self-destruct in so many different ways, and it could be with addiction, it could be with friendship, it could be with marriage, it could be with all these things,
anything.
And it's not, that doesn't make you a bad family member, but you can't force someone to do something and be something that they're not ready to be. And when they're ready, you can come back. I'm so glad you saw this through and whatever. And some people might not agree with that, but
she said, but
it is what it is. I mean, I know I'm a good friend, and I know there's been situations I've had to do that.
That's the other thing too, and exactly like what you said, the person going through that motion, if your friend is and your person, your spouse, whomever, has always been there for you, and this one time they're walking away, it's like, okay, maybe it is time to be like, okay, I need to do some work.
I always like to think of it like, how would they feel, and surround yourself with people who make you think that way, because I think when you have a bunch of people, if you say, I'm so mad at Rafael, and I'm like, yeah, forget Rafael, he sucks, that's me being a bad friend. Riding for your friend through wrongs and rights does not make you a good friend. Now, I can say in front of Rafael, I'm like quiet side-eyeing him so he doesn't know whose side I'm on, but when we get to the back of the room, I'm like, Catherine,
Be
okay,
so
really,
for real.
what's
Yeah.
going on, and like,
Yeah.
are you being serious? I'll have your back in that way. But if I truly believe in your guys' marriage, and I love your guys' union. So if you ever come to me with something, I'm not going to be like, yeah, forget him. He sucks. Your husband's trash. No, I'm going to be like, hold on a second.
He was great until
Let's
today.
see-
So
y-
what's
yeah,
going on?
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think that's important, is like to have people around you that aren't just a bunch of yes men, but have people who challenge the way you think. And if I were to complain about something Jordan did, like my aunt is probably like one of the people that I would be like, okay, let me tell you this story, and like, am I wrong? You know, because
Yeah.
and I am wrong. Like, she'll be like, and everyone loves Jordan, so she's gonna be like, Anissa, you know.
It's always
And
us.
yeah, I'm always wrong. So like, but I appreciate that, because
Yeah.
she's my aunt, and she easily could be like, ugh, like inside with him,
Yeah.
and then feed into this anger that I already have, and then it makes me lash out on my husband even more.
And then you
like,
don't even want to sit down with your husband and
yeah,
talk.
and talk about it, because you've already talked it through with somebody
Yes.
else. But that's
And
not
he's
the
like, what
person
did I
you should
do?
be
Why are you
talking to.
mad?
Exactly. So it's like, you need to surround yourself with people who challenge the way you think and make you think from different point of views, because I think it also makes you see situations so much clearer and
Mm-hmm.
calmer, and things that maybe are more high stress. You can be like, well, I mean,
Yeah. I feel like as women, we have a lot of friends where like you call your friend and they amp you, and then you're like, your blood pressure's raised,
Yeah.
theirs is, you get off the phone mad, you're still heated. And it's been so refreshing to have a friend where I'm like, that was
calls
calm.
you out. Yeah. I'm like, do we really
Jeez.
need to be at a 10 right now?
Right.
not
I don't
that
even feel like I
serious.
come in at 10s with anything
Yeah.
anymore. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. Moving on. I honestly don't even think you call me with anything.
I was
You're
like-
yeah, he pissed me off, but it's fine. Because it's really not that big of a deal when you just
Yeah.
go to, and with marriage, you just go to your husband.
Yeah.
There's something.
That
wrong,
was
just go to
something when
that.
you and I first started being friends, and like really truly something had happened, and this really did actually, it like really,
This is my
and it's such
favorite.
a dumb argument.
But
It's so dumb.
funny. It's so funny.
But that day I was truly just like so flabbergasted by Raphael's actions. And Raphael's one of those people. Shut the fuck up. Raphael's one of those people that like doesn't always do a lot for himself. So when he does, and like I think that was where it was like I felt bad being mad about
Yeah.
something, because he never does anything for himself. But then he was also like, why are you tweaking?
not just tweaking. It's gonna burn all of St. Paul down. Okay.
I was going to cut a leg off.
Yeah, truly.
I still might cut that leg off.
It was not that serious. Raphael
might have the
is
5
still
commandments.
an angel. He did not do anything that put their marriage at risk.
Yeah, it wasn't anything.
nothing.
It was stupid. It was so stupid. It was permanent, but it was stupid.
It was not that serious.
Anyways, so I come to a couple girlfriends with it, and I'm heated. And I think you were my last call that night. And I was so mad. I was ready to like cuss Raphael out, and I hadn't even seen Raphael. I was just super angry. There was a lot going on. He was somewhere else. I was out.
You were on the
I
way to
made-
pop up.
I have made my phone calls.
Yeah.
So I call you last, and you were like laughing at me, just like this.
I'm like, this
You
is
were
real.
like, mind you, my other phone calls like got me worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
And then I think a few days later, I came over here and we were talking about it, and I was just like, you were so right. It was so stupid. And at the end of the day, like, I literally can't change it.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
But even on that phone call, I'm like, let's
Yeah,
pause
you
for
were
a
like,
second.
what's the big deal?
Yeah,
like,
like,
it's okay.
Right. And it's like,
okay.
it's okay.
And
And
even,
if I understood why you were that upset, but I'm like, if this is the worst, if this is the one thing,
yeah, this is the
that
one
this
thing
man
Rafi
does
does.
wrong all year, and he's so excited about it.
Minus the butt crack.
Yeah, right. But I'm
That's
like,
a
and
chronic
you're that
illness.
excited about, you're that upset about it, and he's that excited about it. Like,
Yeah.
choose this battle is not
Yeah.
worth fighting and
And
beefing
you
with
had
your
sat
husband
here
over.
and you were like, because I had said, I was like, you were the first person to kind of be like, be so for real
Yeah.
right now. And you had just said, like, there's a reason why I don't call my friends sometimes about
Mhm.
my marriage. And I just let myself sit in it, and or I call somebody who I know is going to be the devil's advocate. And if he was in the wrong, you still would have been like, okay, yeah, he's in the wrong, but like, let's figure out how we communicate with him and not with me
Yeah.
about this. And that literally, that conversation in this room changed me, because I was like, you're so right. Because why have I called 4 people at this point, and I haven't just explained to Raphael why it upset me?
Yeah.
And finally, when I went home, he had known how angry I was. And when I went home, I was just like, sorry.
Yeah.
And he was like,
Scared.
he was mad because I had acted a fool.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, I've like finally been like, okay, I can be angry and I can be upset about something, but that doesn't mean I need to call somebody.
Yeah.
And I've always actually liked that about myself, is that I was always somebody who doesn't make an irrational thought in action. I've always called around. But then I started to look around and I was like, I'm calling all my yes men because I knew that they were going to be, I didn't call my
Right
mom.
for you.
My
Yeah.
mom would have laughed.
Right.
She'd be like, you're on my phone like this.
Last. You're like,
And it's so funny because now it's like when I need those moments, you guys are my first calls
Yeah.
instead. Because I'm just like, or now I just deal with it with Raphael, where I'm
Right.
just like, and it's changed our communication because I've been more confident and comfortable in being like, Raphael, here's why I'm upset. I don't need my cheerleaders.
Yeah.
Like, who cares if at the end of the day, like, I'm either going to cry about it for 4 hours or I'm going to deal with it for the next 4 minutes and we're going to move on.
right.
And that conversation really did change me as a wife too, and as a friend, and just in all these moments where I'm like, I've even sat with my therapist and I was like, I don't even feel like I need her because I'm like, I've just been like,
Me. I took her job.
yeah. Do you have a copay?
Right.
Let me know what the
I'll
copay
send
is.
you.
Actually, the
Jimmy
government-
John's and
Right, I was
driving me
just-
to the games.
I was going to say, I went to go pay my copay, I think my second session. And in 2024, government insurance people don't have to pay copays anymore.
Oh.
And I was like, so this is free?
Right. Love that for you. Can they
Molly.
do it? I need to go now.
Right.
Carrying
Tell me what your
shit.
problems are. I'll put them on my
kidding.
phone. Make a
I'll
list
text
for
them.
you. No, but seriously, one of her most common phrases that she keeps telling me is sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, not sorry. And I just keep learning that. Or like the word guilt. And I just use the word guilt all the time. And I feel guilty. And she's like, no, you feel sad. You're not guilty of anything. You didn't go to court. You didn't
do
convict.
anything.
You're not a
You weren't
convicted
convicted.
felon. Like, you're okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I know. What else we got? I think that was a lot of what I wanted to cover with you. I did have notes, by the way. What do you got? What a couch combo.
I know. We unpacked a lot.
I know.
Family.
I feel like we didn't even really, like, we talked about you as a whole of like what you've gone through, but like not even you as like the human being Anissa. You're a meteorologist. I feel like a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
That's wild. Tell me what the news forecast is for today, or the weather forecast.
The news.
Cold.
I can't tell you.
Cold.
No, but it's gonna get better. We're gonna get like near 70 on Sunday.
I know, and then I'm leaving.
Yeah, we're going to California. Whoop, whoop.
We're going to California.
No, but I feel like that's just. I feel like this conversation kind of like
Yeah.
was a wrap
It's
around
a
of
wrap
like
of a
who I am as a person and like.
Do you have any specific places where you think your personality came from? Like, has this just always been you, or has it been a lot of what you've been through that's molded you?
I think I'm a stubborn person.
Okay.
And I think naturally I do have a lot of like characteristics of my dad, which is really funny because when I was a kid, my mom would always say that. And I'm like, girl, no, like, no way. But as an adult, and the more I talk to my dad, we're so similar in like how we think, how we value loyalty, and like that's big. Within friendships, within everything, like I hold like friends and families very close, and that's really important to me. And so like if I hear of a friend talking about me or telling my business, not that there's much to tell, but like
Yeah, it's still your
anything like
privacy.
that, I take that very personally. And like so does my dad. So I feel like just the basics of like who I am at my core, like what I value, kind of come from him. But I think my mom also has taught me a lot. She's a hothead, but she also gives a lot of grace and like, you know, feels bad for people in a lot of sense of like, well, think of where they're coming from and like what they've had to endure for them to be that. And I've had to like, I used to be very like, nope, they messed up, snip, snip, they're cut off. And I would like never talk to them again. But as I get older, I'm understanding more about that. And I think like God has just been putting things in my life to teach me grace.
Yeah.
Because it's not my place to put judgment on like, you're bad, you're good, you're that. And it's like, my mom is very much like, think about what people have gone through to make them do the things they do. And that makes you have a different view of them. Again, you might not agree with it still, and you might think like that is really messed up. But you're also like, I actually feel sorry that you've gone through all of that, and it's made you this person, because you probably could be a really amazing person.
I think understanding and allowing are two different things. Yeah. And a lot of people are like, oh, just because I understand, I need to allow it. And it's like, you don't. Just because you can understand it. Yeah. We want you to understand it.
Right.
But it doesn't mean you need to allow it.
Yeah. And I just realized like there's so much to learn from other people, good or bad. And I never compare. That's one thing. And I hope people don't compare their relationship to my relationship, like with the podcast and stuff, because I don't want people to think like, oh, they're so perfect and they're this. Like, comparison really is the thief of like all happiness, and it's just unfair because you don't know what people have gone through and what they've had to work through to get to that place. Like, I've talked to people and I'm like, wow, like when I say don't compare, because you never know what people are going through, I think people's first thoughts like, yeah, because it's probably all fake on social media. Yeah. She probably really hates her husband. Right. They're not that close.
But you guys didn't just walk in the same room and fall in love, and it's been peaches and cream since then. Like, it's been a lot of work, together, but it's like, still genuine.
Right. And it's like, I adore my husband probably more so in real life than I do on social media.
No, literally.
And like, I'm
they're
like, my
so
man,
like,
my man. Yeah. So like, but people like think like, yeah, don't compare because it's probably not that great in real life. Like, no, I may tell you this all the time. Like, I value my marriage. Yeah. And I have so much like love and respect for my husband and just marriages in general. Like, I don't look at a marriage and think like it's probably fake. I look at you guys and I'm like, I see what you guys have endured together and built together, and the bond you have that people might be like, oh, I wish I had that. Like, that has been built by work and a lot of heartbreak. Like, you guys have gone through loss together and have navigated so much that bond is so special. And every relationship is different. Every friendship is different. Like, this friendship developed way faster than a lot of other friendships that I have. Like, but like, we've gone through things that most people can't relate to, and that has bonded us even more, you know. So it's like, you never know what
love that. We're just little guys.
But yeah, you never know what people are going through and what they've had to do and what self-work we've had to do, all of those things. Like, I've told people all the time, a healthy relationship exposes the worst sides of you, because it shows you how much you have to work on and how much of that like toxic and unhealthy habits that you have developed. Like, Jordan is such a calm, cool, collected guy, and when like stuff would happen, I'd be like, rah, and he's like, babe, chill. And I've had to learn that. And
two adults coming into one room, whether you're friends or marriage, whatever it is, like, you're two adults who have lived a completely different life. Yeah. And all the grace that we're talking about for everyone else, you have to give that to your partner too. You have to give it to your friends. Like, you got to try and understand like where they come from. Again, sometimes they don't get the lifelong pass. Like, it's like, okay, you were a great friend for this amount of time, but like, and I understand, but I'm no longer allowing. But like, a lot of times people think, I think that's where it needs to be happening before marriages. I feel like a lot of time people are like, oh, now I need to understand my spouse because we're married, and now I got to figure it out. It's like, no, this needs to be happening before you sign that certificate.
For sure.
Because that's your last time that you can walk away. In my eyes. I mean, like, I'm also a fan of divorce too. If you sign that shit way too early and it's just not working, I'm like, by all means, I'll drive you to the courthouse. Right. But like, in my life and in your life, marriage is very, very sacred and very serious, and not that everyone signs up for it saying that it's not, but
but it's different, I think. And also read the signs. I think things are like very telling. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes people get into things like, well, I thought it would change after. Like, whatever it is,
that's my favorite phrase.
I think this is a whole other episode we're getting into.
That's my favorite phrase ever, is you can only go off of exactly what they are showing and telling you.
Yeah. And
a lot of people are like,
after your mid-20s, potential is not real. They've potentied out.
They've potential out. Potential gone.
Yeah. So it's
no,
like
seriously.
They've already shown you.
I talked about that with an ex-boyfriend. The topic when I was like, I remember like what I thought he could be. Yeah. And I was in love with that. Yeah. And then when I realized I can't force a grown man to be what I think he could be.
You're never gonna
I was like, I'm not attracted to you. Right. I don't even like you, much less love you.
Right.
I was in love with the fantasy.
Right.
And when that happened, I was like, boy, bye.
It was so much easier to leave. Yeah. But when you realize, like, my favorite quote is like, when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Yes.
I say that all the time. And I apply that with everything. And it's not to say I'm going to be like, you're a bad person, but it's like, okay, you've shown me. So now if I get in a position with you that allows me to get burned,
You
I
can't
should
be
have
mad
known
at them.
better.
You got to be mad at yourself.
Yeah.
100%.
And so it's like, if you're dating and they've shown you infidelity, they've shown you very scary anger, they've shown you all these things.
Disrespect.
Yeah,
anything.
all these things. And you're like, well, it'll get better once we get married. No. I feel like
it gets worse because now they're like, it's
You're
harder for
locked
you
in.
to leave.
Yeah, they're like, all
They're
right,
like,
now-
perfect.
Now the real
balls
show's
to the
starting.
balls,
Yeah.
baby.
The
You
real
saw
show
my
is
colors?
starting.
All right. Well, let me show you my blood.
Right. So it's
Literally.
like, and my mom would say that too. Like when I would date, she'd be like, the dating phase, boyfriend and girlfriend, should be an absolute dream, because once you get married, complacency kicks.
Not a gaslighting dream, though.
Yeah. But like
Don't fall for the gaslighters.
No, but like the type of like dates and like the
Yeah.
things you want, like they should be on their P's and Q's.
Yeah.
Because she's like, once you get married, like people get comfortable and you start like getting a little more lax and all these things. And like that I always took into consideration, because like when Jordan and I were dating, I'm like, oh, this is just the best, you know? And before we got married, like we had an honest conversation of like, what do you expect out of a wife? And have this conversation, everybody, before you get married.
Yeah.
What
You've
do you
told me
expect?
this.
Yeah. And it's not just like, oh, I expect you to be nice. No, like, what do you expect? Do you expect me to, as a wife, do you want me to cook? Do you want me to clean every night? Do you want...
Yeah, how many dates do you
How many
expect?
dates? Are they weekly? Are they monthly? Are they twice a week?
Yeah. What does showing up for you look like?
Yeah, what's your love language? How do you want to be? Read the love language book. How many times a week do you want to have sex? Like that's something you're not thinking of.
She
like,
said sex.
right. I'm like, I don't want to take my sex
Can I say
somewhere.
that on
Right.
here too?
But like that's, people think like, what? Who talks about that? But no, really, because
Yeah.
some people think like, once we get married, I want dinner every night, and she needs to do this, and I want her to put this on and show out this, and that's not.
Sorry,
real
Rafi.
life. Right. Is it like this?
R.I.P. R.I.P. Rafi.
But when you don't know what someone is expecting of you, you're setting yourself up to fail, because
Yeah.
then you're like, oh, then all of a sudden 2 people are extremely unhappy because she hasn't gotten flowers in months. You haven't taken
But
her
he
on a
doesn't know he
date.
needs to buy her.
Yeah. And women are very like emotionally motivated. So it's like, if she doesn't feel loved with flowers, dates, words of affirmation, whatever, why would she want to climb into bed with you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's all these things that you have to talk about and be honest with yourself. And my aunt is a family law attorney, so she does divorces
really?
for a living. Yeah.
Oh,
so
shit.
like,
And it's
when
probably
we-
like the stupidest stuff that
and-
people get
and
divorced
it's
over.
stuff about, a lot of times she said it's about expectation. People go into that and they didn't talk about money.
deep.
They didn't talk about money. They didn't talk about, and it's like, those are uncomfortable
She
situations.
should have a
to
TikTok
have.
page. That shit goes viral.
That's what I told her. Oh my gosh, I've been telling her. She's like, I don't know how to start it. You have to sit down with her.
I'll be in
but-
California next week, babe.
But yeah, like, and so she was like, Anissa, to Jordan, I like, you guys, I want you guys to have a successful marriage. You guys need to talk about all of these things, because these are the most
Yeah.
common things I see wrong.
And isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
because
and
that's
it's
just like
simple
normal
stuff.
relationship stuff.
Yes.
When I think about my husband, I'm like, we think about our money. We think about cleanliness of the household. We
Yeah.
think about what our hobbies are. We
Yeah.
think about our sex life. Like
Right.
those are natural things to think about when you think of your husband.
But you'd be surprised how many people go into it not knowing, or knowing and expecting things to change.
Yeah.
So
I
it's-
also think that conversation is never too late to be had
no,
either.
No,
And
no.
I just said to Raphael the other day, I feel our life is our business and our business is our life.
Yeah.
And the other day we like got in bed, we turned our phones off and we were like, I had just closed my eyes. I was so tired. And he brought up something business related and I just ignored him. I literally didn't say a word. And then I didn't say a word because I knew like the lights were off. Like it was pitch black in our room. I was just mentally turned off.
Yeah.
And he brought up something business related and I ignored it. And the very next morning I was like, we need to come to a conclusion of like when we talk business.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the separation in our life, but we have to have it in our marriage of
Right.
like 11:30 at night when like my brain is just tapped.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit in the dark and talk to you about this. Like, can we schedule 2 hours a week where we have like a dinner out or
Yeah.
something? And I've seen a couple couples that are in the content creation world and they go out to dinner and that's like a business meeting to them and they only talk business during that. Obviously, random stuff will come up. Like
Right.
literally what furniture we buy
Yeah.
is part of our business move now too of like, we want to work with this couch company. So like we are going to look at these couches. So like that is a normal conversation for someone else, like where do you want to buy your furniture from? But for us, we're like, hey, we love this brand. We want to work with them. That's a business move for us. But like that's okay every once in a while. But it was like, it just gets exhausting. And that conversation to Raphael, like didn't need to happen years ago before marriage. But now like I sat down with him and I was like, here's why I have to separate these two. And it was just like an easy conversation. But if people aren't comfortable having those, you're gonna be up at late at night at 11:30 talking about stuff you don't want to talk about. Then you're angry with him. You're exhausted. You're mentally just drained.
Right.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And everyone loves and wants to be loved differently. That's why I love the 5 love languages. Like when we read that book, we'd already been together for like 5 years and we'd just gone engaged. And like our good friends gave us the book. And it was so cute because they gave us the book that they had read. So their notes were in it.
Oh, I love that.
And we love we admire a lot about them and their marriage and like how they've built their foundation. And so like it was cute to kind of read the book from their point of view with like the little notes in it as well. But like I learned that things that I had valued or Jordan doesn't value. And like we have been able to operate all those years still loving each other, all these things. But like once we realized how each other wants to truly be loved and like he's happy with the most simplest things, like when he comes home from a road trip and like the house is clean, there's fresh sheets, laundry's done.
I was gonna say you do like sheets every time, right?
Yeah, like everything's
that's
like
your tradition.
A reset. Yeah, like a full house reset when he comes back from road trip. He's like, thank you so much,
I can't wait to take
like,
my nap.
Yeah, like he's just like, I'm just love you so much, thank you so much, you know, whatever. And then like for me, I came home the other night from filming, and on my nightstand was like a Hershey's bar, cookies and cream. And I love like gifts. Yeah. Like I like big or small. But like I was thinking of you. So happy because he went to Target and like got my little candy and put it on like right next to my nightstand. And I was like, I just love you so much. Yeah, but like he understands. Yeah. But that's not how we operated before we knew each other's true love languages, because I like gifts. So I was giving him gifts and I'd give him crazy gifts and he'd be like, thanks. And I'm like, oh God, you hate it. You hate it so much.
He's just like, no, I just wanted my sheets
clean.
cleaned.
He's just like, I just don't value things like that. So like but if I like sit and like lean on him, like he likes physical touch. So I'm like leaning on him, you know, he's like happy and with a clean house and me hugging him.
He's a simple guy.
Yeah. And like me, I'm like, just tell me how much you love me and like buy me something, you know, like
I just need the
like,
Chanel. It's fine.
He gets me
nothing
like,
big.
Or he like get me like flowers and stuff, and I'm just like dancing around the kitchen because I'm like, he loves me, and that comes from like a whole other thing. But yeah, like learning your partner.
Yeah.
Before, and I'm like, oh God, if we would have learned this earlier, I can't even imagine. I'm already obsessed with him, but I'm like, I just know that our love just grows deeper. But
you've also said you guys read those books together, right?
We read a lot of books together, marriage books, and like,
I think that's also something that a lot of men, and I'm not going to stereotype, but a lot of men wouldn't care about. Yeah. So I love that he's taken that time to also be intentional with your guys' marriage as well, and it clearly pays off.
Yeah, and I also think though, it's come from acknowledging like we want our marriage to thrive. We don't want to just like survive in our marriage, but we want our marriage to thrive. And like I grew up with single parents, and like he's had to navigate a change within his life with his parents' dynamic, and like seeing those things happen up close is scary. And like
you learn what you want and what you don't.
Yeah, and it's like we want to build a family, and we're like very like zoned in on like how do we set ourselves up for success, and how do we create a safe home where our kids feel loved and acknowledged, and they see mom and dad love each other so much. Like the biggest compliment is like when my siblings come to stay with us, they're like, I feel so at peace here. I can stay here. Like I sleep so good here. I feel so loved here. I feel so protected. I feel so cared for. They love coming to stay with us here or at our home in California. And like I think that speaks a lot to our marriage. And they always say like your marriage inspires me, or you know, all of these things. They'll ask us questions, and that's the biggest compliment, because I want to be an example for my siblings, for my kids, for my parents, for my friends. Like I want people to see it exists, but it takes work. We're very intentional with our time. So before bed, we're reading books, we're filling out questions, we're doing little things, and we're not really, Jordan's become a real reader. I'm not really a reader. Like I'm a scroller. But for my marriage, I will read all the books, and they're fun books. We choose the books that like, okay, this is good. Like maybe something that's relatable, or like that we know we're going to benefit from. So it doesn't always have to be pouring books, but if you want to learn how to love your partner better, I think you're going to put it in the work.
What an app. We could talk for hours, y'all.
I know. Don't give us a mic. Together, forget it. Sorry.
Don't give us a mic.
This editing is going to take a minute.
He'll be fine. What a great couch convo to start. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being my friend.
Love you.
We love you. You little cat. She's just a little cat. All right. So I think that was actually a really good episode for our first couch convo. I'm excited to
top that.
I have a couple people on the Rasta for just sitting down with, and I'm very excited when I get back from California. This episode will be coming out when I'm in California, and the next one will be hopefully a mother who has a amazing life story, and I'm so excited. I sat with her at coffee the other day for 4 hours, and that was kind of like our first coffee date too. You guys get held hostage, and I'm like, literally spell it out, spell out everything. And then I literally just, I like take
Tell
notes.
me your deepest, darkest
Tell me everything. And I take all these notes and I construct like what I think is powerful, what I think is maybe like crossing a boundary of like where it's like maybe other people's life stories. And like, yes, it touched your life, but like also let's walk the fine line of not disrespecting their privacy and disrespecting them in general. So I'm very excited for her story, and I'm excited for couch combos in the future.
I love this.
So check out Anissa. She is Anissa Claiborne on both Instagram and TikTok still, correct? And then her podcast is Supporting His, Fulfilling Yours. She's going to have a lot of different guests on, names you may or may not know, just letting people share their voice and their storyline of what it's looked like while they've supported others and still have tried to fill their own cups. So, okay, we'll see you guys next week. Goodbye.
Bye.